Hello, welcome to this week's Forex Outlook here at xm.com. I'm Rafi Barajan, currency analyst, and here with me is our chief economist, Michalis Florentidis. So Michalis, it's been a rather bumpy week for the US dollar. It looks set to end the week on a fairly down compared to where it was at the end of last week. We did see some notable moves though in other pairs, particularly the euro dollar, as well as the yen has been surprisingly strong this week. So please tell us what were the highlights.
Yes, I think the highlight was that the euro dollar reached a fresh 3-year high. It hasn't been as high since December of 2014. This was the continuation, of course, of positive economic news out of the Eurozone. We are seeing Europe doing relatively well, but also we had a preliminary agreement in German coalition talks. So potentially we could have a government in Germany in place soon. So this is going to remove some of the political uncertainty in Europe's largest economy. The second factor was that the ECB was trying to find some ways to signal how it's going to remove policy accommodation. And given that its asset purchase program is in place until September, this was judged to be a little too early for them to be worried. So if they are worried about giving some signal to the market, maybe they want to withdraw accommodation. But of course, as you said, the best performer was the Japanese yen, although dollar yen reached a 2-month low around 111. And this was because I think there was the signal of the reduced bond purchases by the Bank of Japan on the one hand, and I think that might have caught the market a bit wrong-footed. The yen was strong across the board versus not only the dollar but also the euro and the pound.
Now we just had some data out of the US. We had inflation and retail sales for December. They were a little bit on the upside in terms of versus the expectations. Please give us a quick overview of what the data was and whether or not this impacts the Fed policy in the near future.
I think that the inflation, the core inflation was a little bit faster, both month on month and year on year. However, the headline number was a bit slower month on month. Year on year, it was the same. I think the message about inflation is that it's there. It's not to be ignored, but it's not a really huge menace for the Fed, a really huge worry. With retail sales, they were more or less in line, depending on which retail sales measure. It was slightly above, slightly below. I think there was some positive revisions, that this is helpful. I think we are still looking at 2 to 3 rate hikes again for the Fed. And now, Rafi, can you please tell us about next week? I think there are some important news out of Asia, out of China, out of Australia. What is happening there?
That's right. So next week we're going to get China's estimate of fourth quarter GDP. They're going to be the first major economy to report the final 3 months GDP growth figures. We are expecting slightly slower growth in the final 3 months of 2017, from 6.8% in the prior quarter to 6.7% in the fourth quarter. It could potentially come a little bit higher, given that although we are seeing some impact on the economic reforms China has been carrying out, hurting industrial output, particularly within excess capacity that's being streamlined. But we still have the strong government spending on infrastructure, so that might, and also stronger exports as well, so that might potentially offset those negative effects. We're also going to have employment numbers out of Australia. We've seen the Aussie enjoying a bit of a rally. At the moment, it's rebounded strongly from its lows we saw back in December. The last more recent employment reports have been much stronger than expected, so another strong report next week could give the Aussie another bump higher. And we're also going to have the Bank of Canada meeting next week. They're going to have their first policy meeting of the year. The market odds are currently around 90% that the Bank of Canada will raise rates for the third time in as many months next week. although it is possible that given the ongoing uncertainty, the worries about whether or not the US will pull out of NAFTA, that may prevent the Bank of Canada from acting just yet. And in terms of, we'll move on to Europe now. The main focus will be on UK inflation and retail sales numbers.
From what I understand, I think for the Eurozone and the United States, we're not expecting anything huge, so it will be a little strange that at least for the two largest economies or economic blocks, we're not getting many news, but certainly very important data out of China, and a very important week for the UK, where sterling has been doing fairly well. It has also been tracking some of the euros gains. Thank you very much, Rafi. Thank you everyone for watching, and have a great day.